Hello, happy Dr. King Day today. Yes, this is a holiday, and it's a holiday that we fought to get. I'm going to touch on that later. I've actually touched on what some of the things I'm going to touch on with this before, as far as like just how even this day came about. And I'll touch on it a little bit with this video, but I just have some things to say about Dr. King. A lot of people got it twisted about him. The man put in more work than people even realized, and he was a martyr for the work that he put in. And I, as a Black American, foundational Black American man, appreciates that. I could never look down on him for that. You get some people that will just kind of look down on him because of his peaceful stance. Or they'll do things like compare him to Malcolm X, which I don't do that. I don't do that, at least not today. I don't like to look at the contrast between them. I like to look at the common goal they both shared, as far as like just seeing Black people in an even better position than we were, and things that we're still going through now that they would still be talking about if they were alive. The thing is, Dr. King was a freedom fighter. He didn't bite his tongue when it came to injustice, and he didn't soft shoe around it. And it's the reason that he was assassinated. Think about it. The man, everyone's familiar with I Have a Dream, but they're not familiar with his letters. They're not familiar with his 3 evil speeches. They're not familiar with him talking about Black reparations, let alone how white moderates are just as dangerous as Ku Klux Klan cats, no matter how passive they might seem. Dr. King just pointed out the truth about the world that we still live in, things that we still face. He pointed it out back then, and people didn't want to hear that. Unfortunately, you even had some people of faith, even amongst our own foundational Black American people, that almost kind of shunned him, from what some sources have told me. This man went through a lot, and he stood alone, and I pray the best for his family. He left a legacy that definitely is something to be looked at. Now, the thing that I don't particularly care for is that how people use Dr. King as a deflection, when his whole legacy was not a deflection at all. His legacy was something that should be for everyone who's standing up against injustice. You face that stuff head on. It wasn't a deflection like you have. Some people will say, well, Dr. King wouldn't like, well, how would you know what Dr. King would like as far as us being angry at situations today, when you don't even know, when you only know one speech, I Have a Dream. You ignored or just didn't want to know about the language of a riot is, that's the language of the oppressed. The riot is the language of the oppressed. He talked about anger. He talked about all the stuff that a lot of the things that we faced. Or they'll talk about, I just found out like Trump and them were trying to say some Dr. King's quotes. That doesn't mean anything to anyone that knows better. You can use a man's quote, but we don't believe in symbolism. We believe in reality. We believe in action. If you're not abiding by the very quote and what that dude stood for, you don't have anything to say. You might as well not even quote anything. Well, you have people doing that even with the Bible too. But that's another story. The thing is, Dr. King's legacy has lived on. But what people need to seriously remember within that legacy is how he stood against injustice no matter what. How he didn't placate or soft shoe around issues that we, as a Black American, foundational Black Americans, were facing. You got Bernie Sanders everybody always uses him as a get cred card too. That's another thing I don't like. Bernie Sanders, like, oh, I marched with Dr. King. We don't care. You're not for black reparations. So what is that? What is that supposed to do for us? You marching with him. Agents marched with Dr. King. A lot of people use him as a get out pass. That does not work. And it should not work with any foundational black American. None of you guys should be falling for that. You should look at the person's actions. Dr. King's actions showed what he was all about. Someone trying to claim him doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean nothing at all. We all know that some of the people that even marched with him were informants. And that does not look good. So for us, it's like, we want to see the action. Or someone trying to shame you using Dr. King. How come you're so militant? How come you're a black supremacist? Which is not a reality. There's no such thing as a black supremacist. Well, how come you have to speak with so much anger and hate? Dr. King would, no, you know what? Dr. King would be alive today if he didn't speak against the things that he spoke about. And people thought that was angry back then. So, long live Dr. King, memory eternal, and may his legacy live on, and may people see the reality of his legacy and fulfill that. Especially if you're of a different race and one of those that are trying to use Dr. King as a deflection. May you realize the reality of what you're saying. Not that I'm hoping in it. Not that I'm hoping in it anytime soon, because for me, I already know what he was about, and you can't use any of that on me. So, enough respect to Dr. King, memory eternal, and I have to give shouts out to. Oh man, sorry about that, guys. Shouts out to Stevie Wonder and Gil Scott-Heron for touring to get this. Stop. It's touring to get this day established. They did a really cool tour to get this day established for Dr. King, along with Bob Marley. It's funny, I'm sorry, I don't know how this technology works. Things keep showing up on my Facebook right when I'm doing a video. But we have to give the credit where credit's due. Bob Marley toured, it was the last tour that he actually did before he went into the hospital because of his cancer situation. He toured to get this day that we're celebrating today established, supporting his brother Stevie Wonder. And he may not be a foundational black American, but he knew what was up, and that's good. There are brothers and sisters that are not a part of our ethnic background that are still writing for us, and we do appreciate that, or writing with us. Gil Scott-Heron and Stevie Wonder. There's Gil Scott with Stevie, again with Jesse Jackson and Gladys Knight. So Stevie, to me, he started a decade ago, like after Dr. King's death, actually, to get this day established. And he got a lot of opposition for that too. But he used his music and his, charisma, let alone the people that he knew, to keep that in the public eye, toured with it, and just basically got the day that we're celebrating today. Enough respect to that brother. Seriously. Yeah. So I celebrate Dr. King because, we as a people, are it's something of our own. People will say, well, it's a government thing. I got into it with a mutual acquaintance of mine. He's all, that's a white man telling you what holidays is. No, it's not. It was a foundational black American that got that on the roll to be established. Shouts to Stevie Wonder and Gil Scott-Heron again. Also, shouts to Carlos Santana, and I think Aretha Franklin played one of the dates too. I could be wrong. Please forgive me if I am, but I know for sure Gil Scott-Heron and Bob Marley toured, and Carlos Santana played one of the dates. Memory eternal. Remember the legacy of Dr. King. as not just a peacemaker, but one that spoke truth to power and did not waver at all. He went to the very end. Peace and blessings to you all on this Dr. King Day.